I want you to picture something for a moment. Imagine taking $75 million dollars in cash, US dollars. Imagine flying to New York City, going to the top of the Empire State Building, and just throwing it all out into the wind. Sounds insane, right? A monumental waste of money. Well, this isn't a metaphor. This is effectively what the government of Ontario has just done with your money. According to reports from Global News, the Ontario government launched a $75 million ad campaign on major U.S. television networks, channels like Fox News and Bloomberg. And the centerpiece of this campaign, they used an AI-generated voice of former President Ronald Reagan to try and persuade Republican voters to oppose auto tariffs. You can't make this stuff up. It's a desperate, backward-looking strategy that perfectly symbolizes the deep systemic failure of Canada's entire approach to the auto industry. The problem isn't whether the ad campaign is good or bad. The problem is that it's trying to answer the wrong question. The question our politicians are desperately trying to answer is this: how can we save the jobs of yesterday? How can we beg and plead and convince our old partners to keep the industrial model of 1995 alive for just a little longer? This is a mindset of managed decline. It's a strategy rooted in fear and nostalgia, and it is doomed to fail. The real question, the one that requires courage and foresight to ask, is completely different. What if, instead of spending $75 million to beg for its past, Canada used that money to invest in its future? What if the real answer isn't begging Stellantis to stay, but inviting the next automotive giants to come? In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how Canada is trapped in a toxic, abusive relationship with legacy automakers. It's a relationship based on subsidies and blackmail. Then I'm going to reveal the massive, controversial opportunity they are too afraid to seize. An opportunity that could not only save our auto industry, but redefine it for the next 50 years. The Stellantis trap: why the old model is dead. To understand the depth of this crisis, we need to talk about the Stellantis deal in Windsor. On the surface, it was hailed as a massive victory, a new multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle battery plant, a bridge to the future. But what the politicians didn't tell you is the price of that bridge. They didn't tell you that this wasn't a partnership, it was a shakedown. Let's be very clear about the timeline. Initially, Stellantis and its partner LG announced the plant with a certain level of government support. But then just a few months later, they abruptly halted construction. They held the project and the thousands of promised jobs hostage. They effectively said to the Canadian government, "Pay up or we walk." And what was the result? According to reporting from Reuters, the final deal involves a staggering level of subsidies, not just a one-time payment, but production subsidies that could cost Canadian taxpayers up to 15 billion Canadian dollars over the next decade. 15 billion dollars. Let's put that in perspective. That means every single job created at that plant is being subsidized with millions of your tax dollars. This isn't an investment, it's a ransom payment. And this isn't a new story. It's a pattern, a deeply ingrained historical pattern of dependency that has defined Canada's auto industry for over half a century. This mindset has deep roots, going all the way back to the 1965 Canada-US Automotive Products Agreement, better known as the Auto Pact. The deal essentially removed tariffs on cars and parts between the two countries, turning southern Ontario into an integrated cross-border extension of Detroit. For decades, this guaranteed jobs and investment. It created prosperity and a strong middle class in cities like Windsor, Oshawa, and Brampton. But it also hardwired a dangerous sense of dependency into the DNA of the Canadian industry. It created the branch plant mentality. The core assumption was that as long as Americans were buying cars, Canada would be building them. Canadian politicians stopped thinking about a sovereign industrial strategy. Their strategy became simple: keep Detroit happy. This assumption is now broken, and the consequences have been devastating. For decades, the legacy automakers, the Big Three, have played this exact game. They dangle the threat of plant closures and job losses, and Canadian politicians, terrified of the headlines, open up the public purse. Remember the GM bailout during the 2008 financial crisis? Canadian taxpayers contributed billions to save the company. And what was GM's thank you? A decade later, in 2019, they shut down the historic Oshawa assembly plant, devastating an entire community. But the story doesn't end there. It's a pattern of abandonment. We saw it with the closure of the Ford St. Thomas assembly plant in 2011, which had been operating for over 40 years, wiping out thousands of jobs in that region. We saw it with the closure of the Chrysler plant in Windsor, which saw shift after shift eliminated over the years. Each closure was treated by politicians as an isolated tragedy, but they were all symptoms of the same underlying disease: a failure to adapt, a failure to diversify, and a failure to see that the world had changed while Canada's strategy remained frozen in 1965. This isn't a partnership. It's a toxic, codependent relationship where Canada is constantly afraid of being abandoned and is willing to pay any price to keep the relationship going. But the trap is even deeper and more insidious than that. Even if you accept the $15 billion price tag, the strategy itself is fundamentally flawed. It's what I call the component economy trap. Look at the deal closely. Canada is paying billions to build a factory that makes one part of the car, the battery. But where is the real value in the auto industry? Where are the highest paying jobs, the engineering, the design, the complex robotics, the final assembly? They're not just in the parts. They're in putting the whole car together. And what is Stellantis doing with that? They just announced they are moving the production of the Jeep Compass from Brampton, Ontario, to a plant in Illinois. Do you see the game here? Canada is spending $15 billion to build the engine for a car that will be assembled in America, creating high-value jobs there. We are subsidizing our own decline. We are paying to become a low-value part supplier for somebody else's high-value assembly line. The Stellantis deal isn't a bridge to the future. It's a golden cage. It locks Canada into a subordinate role, building components for legacy companies that have proven, time and time again, that they have no loyalty to this country. This model is broken. It is unsustainable. It is dead. It's time to stop begging our ex to come back. It's time to find a new partner. The BYD opportunity, the contrarian solution. While Canada's politicians are consumed with the automotive giants of the 20th century, the real revolution is being led by a company many people here have never even heard of. That company is BYD, and if you don't know that name, you need to learn it fast. BYD, which stands for Build Your Dreams, is not just another car company. It is a technological titan. It started as a battery manufacturer and is now the second largest producer of rechargeable batteries on the planet. They make everything from cell phones to solar panels. But what truly sets them apart is their vertical integration and their technology. Unlike legacy automakers who buy their batteries from suppliers like LG, BYD is the battery supplier. They design and build their own batteries in-house. And their flagship technology is a game changer called the Blade battery. It's an innovation in lithium iron phosphate chemistry that has redefined EV safety and efficiency. These batteries are less prone to catching fire than traditional lithium-ion batteries. They are more durable, cheaper to produce, and offer incredible energy density. This isn't just a car company, it's a technology company that happens to put its world-class batteries inside its own cars. And they also happen to make electric cars. A lot of them. Here is the single most shocking statistic in the auto industry today. According to the latest sales data from Car News China, as of the third quarter of this year, 2025, BYD has now officially outsold Tesla in pure electric vehicles for 4 consecutive quarters. Let me repeat that. The company you've never heard of is now selling more electric cars than the company everybody talks about. Industry analysts at Counterpoint Research are now forecasting that BYD will end 2025 as the undisputed #1 manufacturer of electric vehicles in the world. While our politicians are in a panic over Ford and GM, this company is quietly conquering the planet. Now, the knee-jerk reaction from our leaders would be predictable. Oh, they're a Chinese company. We can't work with them. That's too risky. That kind of fearful, backward-looking thinking is exactly why we're in this mess. Because while Canada is afraid, BYD is not waiting. They are executing a brilliant global expansion strategy. They know that to be a global player, they can't just ship cars from China. They have to build where they sell. Let's look at the evidence. Case study number 1. Europe. BYD is currently building its first European car factory in Szeged, Hungary. The announced investment is over 1.2 billion euros, and the project is expected to create over 3,000 direct jobs in the region. They aren't just dipping a toe in the water, they are building a massive permanent presence inside the European Union. They are embedding themselves directly into the European industrial landscape. Case study number 2, South America. This one is even more telling. In Bahia, Brazil, BYD did something incredibly symbolic. They took over a massive factory complex that had just been shut down and abandoned by Ford. Does that sound familiar? And according to reports from Ford Authority in October 2025, BYD has already begun production there, investing over $1 billion to retool the plant and turn it into a massive EV manufacturing hub for all of Latin America, with plans to create over 5,000 jobs. They are literally building their future on the ruins of the legacy auto industry's past. The evidence is undeniable. BYD's strategy is to build locally. They have conquered Asia. They are moving aggressively into Europe and South America. The next logical, inevitable step is North America, and this is where Canada's massive, squandered opportunity comes into focus. Why is Canada the perfect partner for BYD's North American entry? First, we have the resources. The Canadian government itself has published its critical minerals strategy. It identifies lithium, nickel, and cobalt as national priorities. We have everything a battery giant like BYD needs, right here in the ground. Second, we have the infrastructure. We are already spending $15 billion on a world-class battery factory in Windsor. Third, we have the people. We have tens of thousands of highly skilled, experienced auto workers in places like Brampton and Oshawa who are watching their jobs disappear. And fourth, we have market access. Under the USMCA, a vehicle assembled in Canada could, under the right conditions, have tariff-free access to the American market. Now imagine this. Imagine a different reality. Imagine if, instead of wasting $75 million on a nostalgic ad campaign, the Premier of Ontario got on a plane, flew to Shenzhen, walked into BYD headquarters, and made a real pitch. We see you are conquering the world. We want you to conquer North America from here. Here is a $75 million grant to help you set up. We will fast-track your permits. We have a brand new $15 billion battery plant waiting for you. We have the critical minerals you need. And we have the best auto workers in the world ready to build your cars. Come and build your first North American assembly plant in Ontario. That is the difference between leadership and nostalgia. It's the difference between investing in the future and paying to preserve the past. The great gamble, Schfirn. And the final question. So let's bring this all together. Let's be brutally honest about the choice facing Canada. The country's auto strategy is dead. The model of begging legacy automakers, who are abandoning us for scraps from the table, is over. It's time to stop funding our decline and start investing in our future. The choice is clear. Do we want to be a low-value component supplier for American factories, building the batteries for cars that create high-value assembly jobs somewhere else? Or do we want to be the home of the next generation of automotive giants? Do we want to build the engine, or do we want to build the car? Now, this is not a simple solution. I want to be very clear about that. This is a huge geopolitical gamble, and we need to talk about the risks with our eyes wide open. Washington would not be happy, and that's an understatement. The idea of a Chinese EV giant using Canada as a backdoor into the U.S. market would set off alarm bells all over Capitol Hill. There are 3 reasons why. First, economics. It's a direct threat to the American Big Three in their home market. They would lobby Congress relentlessly to stop it. Second, technology. There are deep-seated fears in Washington about Chinese intellectual property and the potential for technology transfer, whether those fears are justified or not. And third, national security. The idea of Chinese technology being integrated into the North American critical infrastructure of transportation would be met with intense scrutiny. The threat of retaliatory tariffs, of political pressure, of being squeezed by our largest trading partner is very, very real. This path requires courage. It requires a government that is willing to stand up and say, our national interest, securing high-tech manufacturing jobs for the next generation, comes first. But is this gamble worth it? That's a complicated question and one we need to explore further. In the next video, we'll break down exactly what would happen if a Chinese EV giant did build a plant in Canada, and if a future President Trump's tariffs would crush them before they even started. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel for that analysis. But for now, I leave you with this. Should Canada risk angering the United States by partnering with a company like BYD to secure thousands of new generation, high-value auto jobs? Or is that a geopolitical risk that is simply not worth taking? Leave your honest opinion in the comments below. This is a conversation we, as a country,